Thomas Paine, Thomas Paine, Thomas Paine, Sam Adams, Sam Adams, Sam Adams, Benjamin Franklin, Benjamin Franklin, Benjamin Franklin. These men spoke up for what they thought was right. From their courage came such documents as the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the United States. From their willingness to speak what was sometimes unpopular but right, we enjoy such liberties as freedom of speech, the right to keep and bear arms, and freedom of religion. There are those who still wish to oppress our freedoms, and there are still patriots willing to stand up and defend life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Men like Zeb Bell, who honor our founding fathers and what they stood for. It's now time for Zeb at the ranch, speaking up and defending your freedoms. Brought to you by Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers and all of the other great advertisers on the program. And now, Zeb Bell.
I am positive that most of you are going to agree with this. Why? Why do I have to press 1 for English when the people I'm calling at their business are just going to transfer me to somebody I can't understand anyway? It happened to me yesterday. We'll talk about it later. Here comes Kate Smith and God Bless America, followed by a patriot with our Pledge of Allegiance. Good morning. Oh, my goodness sakes, I never, ever tire of her voice. Thank you so much, Kate Smith, and God Bless America. Good morning to you. Zeb at the Ranch with our major sponsor, as I almost choked to death. A lot of people are going, oh yeah. Zeb Bell here with our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. All 7 locations serving you, and of course some of our great advertisers like Western Way Services, always at your disposal. Call, get on the route service 734-6969. And I believe we have a special guest to do the pledge this morning. Good morning.
Leiden had not called in yet, sir, so I had Doug do it because he wanted to do the pledge.
Well, we had heard originally that Leiden Crane was going to come on the program this morning and do the pledge, and evidently he's running a little bit late with a meeting or whatever, and we have the silver-throated tones of Double Doug. Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
How are you, my friend? And by the way, where were you yesterday? Your call was not here on the radio.
Well, I was removing that white stuff that keeps falling in my parking lot, in my neighbor's parking lot.
Do not go there. I want to talk to you about that after the pledge. Go ahead.
You bet. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You know, I'm frustrated, and I vented a little bit yesterday afternoon. Fortunately, the neighbors were gone, and nobody was within earshot. But I went out, and I plowed, and I plowed, and I plowed. And I finally got my driveway to the point where it was accessible, and went to bed last night thinking, boy, am I a good guy for getting that all done. And woke up this morning, and you do not want to know some of the verbiage that I used.
I'm sure most of us don't want to know it.
I don't know about you, buddy, but I've had enough of angel dandruff for this winter.
Well, you got a new snowplow for a four-wheeler. I mean, it should be a new toy that you want to play with every day.
Well, I will admit that I'm absolutely gratuitous to Nick over at Nick at Let's Ride, because I love that snowplow on my four-wheeler. But honestly, enough is enough.
Well, you need to invest in what I have. I got a snowblower that goes on the back of my tractor.
Uh-oh. I'll bet you're really having fun.
You could take those pods. In fact, I've decapitated a couple gnomes that I know of.
Yeah. I did make a mistake with mine quickly, and we put great big stones, rocks, over our irrigation deals so that when somebody pulls in the yard in the wintertime, they won't run over that plastic, you know. And yours truly forgot that the snow was covering them up. Now, if you want to see a 5'11", 220-pound man ejected from a four-wheeler, it did happen to me day before yesterday.
It's amazing when the vehicle stops and you just keep on going.
Yeah, the world takes on a different perspective when you see the handlebars passing underneath you at a high rate of speed.
Just hopefully they don't catch below the waist or the knees.
That was a thought that bothered me. Have a good day, my friend.
You too, sir.
Thank you. Oh, boy, I know Jerry Voss is going to get a kick out of that. Anyway, we got to get the weather on here. Holy cow. Good morning. The weather forecast by Cheney Flooring and Home Design. 1228 Oakley Avenue in Burley. Look for that blue door. Whatever you need to make your house a home. All your home decor items, kitchen construction, carpet and flooring, everything. Well, then you better stop in. Cheney Flooring and Home Design. Here's the weather. Let's try that again. Here's
clouds and some possible more snow showers in the forecast for today and tomorrow. Here's a look at your weather. We do have a slight chance of snow showers for this morning. Hopefully those are going to be tapering off as we get more towards the afternoon hours. Still a little bit on the breezy side, winds out of the west, right around 10 miles an hour. We are expecting a high of 24 tonight, low of 16 tomorrow. We do have a 30% chance of morning snow showers in the forecast, high of 22 with an overnight low of 13. Clouds will be sticking around for Friday, but hopefully no snow showers in the forecast. High of 24 with an overnight low of 8. Mostly cloudy for Saturday and 21, and again, mostly cloudy and 21 for Sunday. That's your weather for Zeb at the Ranch.
I've had it. No more snow, please. And the weather brought to you by Cheney Flooring and Home Design. 1228 Oakley Avenue in Burley. Look for the blue door. Great folks. Whatever you need to make your house a home. Caller, hang on just a quick second. Yours truly got to gabbing too much there a minute ago, and I got to tell everybody about our dear friends at Ramsey Heating and Electric at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley. Yep, they're open 7:30 to 5 Monday through Friday, and they've got all your heating and electrical needs. And they, you know, John Paul, if you're listening this morning, you do a great job. I appreciate that. He came over and helped us with our lights a little bit. Appreciate it. Ramsey Heating and Electric, and they've got all your furnace filters to make sure your furnace is going to keep you warm and snuggy. They've got it all. Ramsey Heating and Electric, 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley, where they provide warm winters and cool summers. Good morning. You're on the air.
Zeb.
I hear you.
I can't believe this, Zeb. I warned you.
It wasn't as bad as I said it was. I mean, there was no blood. Nobody became injured. There was no ambulance call. There was no hospital stay. So get off my back.
You guys that want to ruin the world.
Thank you.
I don't know.
Well, let me ask you.
Nightmares about you tearing out the whole city of Murtaugh.
Oh, I didn't get that far. I live way away from the downtown of Murtaugh.
Over the edge of the canyon.
Yeah. Jerry, you exaggerate. I mean, any damage was right here on my property. The world and the county and the city of Murtaugh was not at all in jeopardy.
You have learned to drive it.
Oh, I'm good at it. It's just that when you cover something up with snow, Voss, can you miss it? No.
Well, you ought to remember it.
Don't go there, Jerry.
Hey, Zeb, you have a wonderful day, and may the Lord bless you and your whole audience.
I appreciate it, buddy. Thanks so much. Have a good day. Thank you.
You have fun.
All right. Yes, doggone snow covered up the rocks. And it's not my fault it snowed so much. Boy, when I hit him, I hit him. Denny's Restaurant. Don't forget 611 Overland and Burley. Oh, my, those sizzling skillet meals are absolutely fantastic. I love that sausage skillet meal. Ooh, knock my boots off, delicious. They've got so many great menu choices at Denny's Restaurant, America's Diner, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Oh, it's delicious. 611 Overland in Burley and another location at 291 Pole Line Road in Twin Falls. You'll never go away hungry. It's great at Denny's Restaurant, America's Diner in Burley and Twin Falls. Calls are welcome and appreciated. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Real quick, I also want to remind you about Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation. Hello, Nick Greenwell. I understand Nick had a heck of a time trying to get down from his home to his office the other day, and the snow, not good. 678-1191, the number to call at Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation, 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley, and they help you get back to being you. That's right. They've got all the exercises, the sports medicine, and that wonderful hydrotherapy pool. Oh, I put a lot of miles on that treadmill in that pool. Physical therapy at its best at Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation in Burley. The number to call, 678-1191. Okay. You know, I mentioned in the opening of the program about the press 1 for English. I gotta tell you, I called a credit card company yesterday. They did not receive a check that I had sent them on January 7th. January 7th. And I said, why was that not credited to my account? Well, we haven't got it. And they put this person on the line that absolutely, I know, my wife was sitting next to me at her desk, and I must have said, pardon me, excuse me, I can't understand you, at least 297 times. And finally I asked this lady, I said, wait a minute, stop, please. Would you put your superior or your supervisor on the phone? I cannot understand you to finish this transaction. So she said something that sounded like, yes, sir, and put the supervisor on. Yeah, you're way ahead of me. Yeah. I couldn't understand her any better. And finally I just said, that's it. I'm going to put a stop pay on the check, and it's going to cost me $30. But I can't understand you people. Why do these businesses hire people that sound like they just were beamed down from someplace out in La La Land, and I'm not referring to the movie? You can't understand them. Calm down, Zeb. Calls welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Give me a jingle. I know I'm not the only person that has trouble with that. And this one here, somebody would say, well, what country or what dialect did they have? I could not even begin to tell you what this person's background was or sounded like. You just couldn't understand her. Barry Equipment and Rental. Hey, by the way, we're going to try something new here this morning with Barry Equipment and Rental, with locations in Jerome and Twin Falls and 159 West Highway 30 in Burley. Close your eyes, everybody. If you're driving, leave one open. And think spring. Let's hum. Think spring and grass, green grass, and lawn mowing. Oh, would I love to have my lawnmower going right now. Well, if you are thinking that way, you better get your spring order in for a Walker mower. 0% interest for 48 months. That's what the pros use. You better stop in and check on it today at Barry Equipment and Rental. They have all the equipment to get the job done right. Jerome, Twin Falls, and 159 West Highway 30 in Burley. Think spring. I'm thinking. Okay. I thought, Deanne, when I called the weather service the other day, they said the snow was going to end yesterday afternoon. What right did they have to lie to us and give us, 2 more inches of snow last night? Now I got to go out and plow again. All right, Jerry, leave it alone. Yes, I'm going to get on my snow plow after the program. Attention, liberals. Attention liberals and demo brats and the global no borders twits. Europe tried this. Europe tried your silly, hurtful, let everybody in, no borders, and it ruined. This is fact. You don't have to just think this is old Zeb saying this. It ruined their economics. It ruined their employment opportunities. It ruined their security. And now those countries in Europe are saying, hey, wait a minute, enough is enough. They're begging to go back to becoming again solid, singular, democratic nations with stability. So why, over the last 8 years, and I'm picking on him even though he's out of office because he did so many dumb things. Why did Obama, the last 8 years, try a failing, now a failed system that Europe tried? I mean, he tried that with the green energy, like Spain, and Spain tried that. I was over in Spain. I talked to these people, and they said it was just a bunch of combined idiocy to put green energy in, and it raised their electrical rates so high the people couldn't afford it. I was there. I talked to these people. And, of course, Obama had to try that, too. Well, now, with the open borders, the globalization people, everybody can go everywhere else. Well, I have yet to have somebody explain to me this. If you have open borders and everybody can come hither and yon, who's going to pay the bill? Oh, yeah. Us, the citizens, are still going to pay the bill to support the so-called government that we live in. But yet these freeloaders can come in from anywhere they want to, do anything they want to, and they're not paying a doggone dime. So if you think I sound hard-nosed and callous because I don't want these people here, yup, you're right. You've got me. If you're going to have a nation, you have to have borders. If you're going to have a border, you've got to have a government that's going to enforce the borders and people that are going to support the government. Bingo! And Obama didn't want that. Calls are welcome, 436-2244. Oh, and by the way, speaking of Obama, as much as I never wanted to mention his name again on this program, you got to wonder at the last minute of his presidency, if you want to call it that, why did he give the Palestinians over $221 million and kind of a thumb in the eye to our number one ally right there, Israel? Why? Well, you can draw your own conclusions, but that's Obama, the world globalization king. And I don't think he's going to go away. Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Come on. Get out of bed. Give me a call. It gets lonesome sitting in the studio with Ruby barking and running up and down the hall and everything, so give me a call. I want to remind you, too, about Sophie's Chatterbox. Oh, my goodness sakes, every Monday we give away a dozen cookies to a delicious place, Sophie's Chatterbox. And by the way, don't forget, order your Valentine basket of yummies from Sophie's Chatterbox. Oh, they're better than flowers. The flowers will just croak and wilt, but these cookies are going to really be good. Anyway, Sophie's Chatterbox, 530 East Street in Rupert. A bakery and restaurant extraordinaire. Absolutely. And also, I want to quickly remind you, too, about Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids. What did he say, Martha? Anyway, I'm talking about you not being able to hear everything. Well, it's not associated with old age. No. There's so many other things. Might be your medication. Might be a disease or some problem with your health. There are so many things that are really responsible for hearing loss. And she, Dr. Christine Pickup, can help and probably take care of the problem. So you better check it out. Get a hearing screening today at Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids, right across from the Minidoka Hospital Emergency Room. Number to call, 312-0957. Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids, absolutely the best. Okay, let's see what. Oh my goodness! Did you hear this? This story is really scary, and I'll get to that scary story right after this. Good morning. You're on the air.
Yeah, it's Earl.
Hi, Earl.
I've been meaning to say this. The thought's gone through my head quite a bit every time when we start talking about immigration problems and etc. This state went through an adjudication process in a Swan Falls lawsuit here in the last 30 years. We're drying up irrigation wells at various places of the country. We're trying to conserve on water. The well's halfway empty. What in the hell are we thinking about bringing more people into this country when the well's half empty?
You know, now, Earl, that is one of the most common sense questions I've had posed to me in a long time, and I can only answer it this way. My dear friend, and you listen to him every Tuesday on my show, Frosty Woldridge, probably the most prominent immigration and illegal immigration authority in the United States, has posed the same question right to the hierarchy of our government. How? How can we have all these people coming in when we're seeing the social amenities and the environmental amenities, water, etc., going downhill as far as numbers and available usage is concerned? And he's posed that question, and I don't understand it either. We've got to have a day of reckoning, Earl, because this is ludicrous.
Well, the same thing's going on within our state government, our Department of Water Resources. We are encouraging people in here with open arms when we've gone through this in the last 30 years that I've mentioned.
Well, I guess I'm going to come right out and say, Earl, I am not welcoming people in here with open arms. We have got to have some restrictions. We've got to have more qualifications. We've got to think about America and the American taxpayer first and foremost. And I think you'll agree with me, the American taxpayer has been shoved in the back row of the theater.
Well, we got to get people like Bert Stevenson on the ball on this, because what's going on here is not right.
You know, now that you mention that, I am going to personally call Bert and ask him to come on the program in the next couple of weeks at his convenience, and we'll talk about that. Earl, I compliment you on this. I will call him, and we'll talk about it. And then, along with Bert, I'll give a call to, and all of a sudden his name escapes me, with the other Idaho Water Committee, and I'll take care of that too. So thank you very, very much.
Zeb, you know, this thought's been running through my head for quite some time, and I just had to bring it up today, because we're all at the end of our rope with what's going on.
No kidding. And we've got a hold of the knot, but it's slipping. Earl, God bless you up on the hill. Take care.
Thank you, Zeb.
You betcha. Hey, I've got to remind you, too, the Relay for Life kickoff is going to be, now listen, this is for the 2017 Relay for Life kickoff, is going to be this Thursday, tomorrow, at 6 to 8 p.m. at the Burley Methodist Church at 450 East 27th Street. Don't forget the Relay for Life kickoff tomorrow, 6 to 8 p.m. at the Burley Methodist Church. I got to get that in. Good people. Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. You know what else the president now has to worry about? His bodyguards, the Secret Service. I'll tell you why in just a moment. It's really scary. Honestly, it's very, very scary. Want to remind you about our friends at Mini-Cash Sales. Hello, Zach. How you doing? I'm telling you what they've got, just everything. When I say everything over there, they are so professional when it comes to like the Western windows and your carpeting and your flooring, and they can help line up the contractors to do the installation work and the Western windows. I mean, boy, what a great operation. And they sponsor Dr. History every single Tuesday right here at 10:06 on Zebeth Ranch. Boy, they're good. Zach, his family, everybody over there, they really work for you. Mini-Cash Sales, 1321 East Main Street in Burley, right across from the airport. Number to call, 878-2091. Really good folks. It came out that a female Secret Service agent had made a quote that, whether she tweeted it or whatever, that she'd rather, listen to this carefully, she'd rather take jail time over taking a bullet for President Trump. Chew on those words for a minute. The president's life, regardless of whether it was Reagan, whether it was Clinton, whether it was Obama, and now Trump, the president's life depends on the teamwork and the diligence and the absolute standing in front of the President of the United States to keep them safe. And when you hear of a Secret Service agent coming out and making a statement that she'd rather take jail time over taking a bullet for Donald Trump, and it has been proven that she's an avid and was an avid supporter of Hillary Clinton, wow. I mean, wow. Now we have to worry about left-wing ideologues that may let the president take a hit because of partisan politics. I mean, if you can't trust members of the Secret Service as the main protection for the life of the President of the United States and the First Lady and the family, wow. And this Secret Service agent came out and said she'd rather take jail time than taking a bullet for Trump. This really, when you go and make a list of disgusting statements and really worrisome things, this has got to rank at the top of the list. As much as I despised Obama, there is nobody that has any kind of a background, personality, Christian upbringing, whatever, would ever wish death or injury to the President of the United States. And for a Secret Service agent to say this, you got to sit back and go, woo. Do we need to screen every single agent again? And who's in there that might cause a problem? 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. By the way, I have only seen this person's television show one time. One time. And if you want to call it a show, I guess you could. But believe me, in my case, once was enough. And I'm referring to Chelsea Handler. It was not entertainment. It was filthy. It was raw. It was sick. It was perverted. And it is anti-values. And Chelsea Handler has about as much, how should I say this, welcoming power to make people want to listen and watch her as a dead bug on the linoleum floor. She hates Donald Trump. She hates conservatives. And I don't know if you caught this or not, but a reporter was asking Chelsea Handler, and I don't even know why they give this absolutely destitute of any common sense woman any more press, but reporter asked Chelsea Handler after the Women's March this last weekend of that liberal, oh, what was us march. She asked her about the Trumps, and she asked her if she would have Melania Trump on her TV show. And Chelsea Handler said no, because she can't speak English. Doesn't want anything to do with her. And Chelsea treated Melania, the First Lady, as if she was a subclass citizen or subclass in general, and absolutely lowered her standard, even with her own peers. People came out of the woodwork to condemn Chelsea Handler, and that's good. That's good. Now, let's just review, in case you're not aware of this. Melania Trump is not just a devastatingly good-looking lady. She's also very, very smart. And she can speak 5 languages. 5 languages fluently. And for a stupid TV host, and she proved that, Chelsea Handler to come out and say something like, well, I don't want her on a program. She can't even speak English. Yes, Melania has that European accent, but she can speak very easily 5 languages. And I'll guarantee you that the left, by assaulting people verbally and going after the conservatives, going after family values, kind of the same as Sally Boynton Brown from right here in the state of Idaho. Boy, you talk about a burned out light bulb there. Oh my, I'll get into that in a minute. But the left is showing their true colors, that they're not worthy of having offices like the presidency or whatever. Calls are welcome. Oh, and give me a call. 436, you're lost, Deanna. What's the matter? 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Good morning.
Well, Linda, do you agree with me or not?
Yeah, there's a difference between a person who speaks with an accent that is understandable and a person you can't understand. And I know I've gotten a few of those, but very few. Actually, I've been really lucky. I've gotten a few, and way more back in the past, that when I called companies, but they were very polite and very pleasant, and I could understand them, but I had to listen a little bit. I couldn't wander, but at least they did do their job, and they could be understood.
Yeah.
I do wish that we had more English-speaking people, that we didn't have quite so much outsourcing where they can't be understood like that. Those ladies you got the other day.
Well,
and the other thing was that for the Chelsea that you were talking about, that is just awful. There's no quality there.
Do you remember wait a minute, Linda. Do you remember, and I know you do, Jackie Kennedy? Remember that married to John F. Kennedy, and she had kind of a French brogue and accent and everything. Nobody ever assailed her. Nobody ever criticized her.
No, you can understand her too. It's and we have quite a few people in our church that speak Spanish, and many of them, when they speak English, when they can, some do not, but you can understand them.
Yeah.
They may have a little bit of accent, but they're perfectly understandable. And there's a line there where you have people that you just can't understand, and it does make it really hard. And if you've got a hearing loss, it's even worse.
Yeah. Well, all I'm saying is that no matter what the Trumps do, and quite frankly, no matter what the right does as far as being conservative, the left is going to attack them. The left is going to assail them. The left is going to denigrate them. And for what purpose? I mean, if we're ever going to get along again in this country, honestly, I'll say this, it's the left that better learn to shut their mouth.
Yeah, and they're not coming up with solutions. All they're doing is beating on the other side. And it's ridiculous. It's not productive, and it's absolutely disgusting.
I agree. How are you, by the way? I hope everything is well with you with all this snow and everything.
Well, it is. We have a little trouble with getting in and out sometimes, but, we are doing well.
Okay.
And I'm glad that you've canceled Lunch Bunch, in that I think it was the safest and wisest thing to do for everybody concerned, including yourselves.
Well, I appreciate that.
I look forward to the next one.
All right, my dear. You take care of yourself. On behalf of Deanna and I, we wish you the best. Thank you.
Yes, and thank you for your lovely birthday card.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you, Linda. God bless. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Nice lady right there. Calls welcome 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. This is my day, I guess, to assail these left-wing lips like Chelsea Handler. And I'm going to talk to you in a minute about, you thought she'd faded into obscurity? Jane Fonda. Oh, my goodness. Stand by. Don't forget Snake River Auto Body and Paint, 404 4th Avenue West in Twin Falls. Kenny and Dan, the whole group. These are such nice people, and they do so much for the community. But I'll tell you what, they can really fix your cars and pickups if they've got dings, dents, scratches, whatever. Oh, my goodness, they are the best. They accept all insurances. They give you an estimate, schedule for repair. Bing, bam, boom, the job is done, and you are tickled pink. I know a lot of people, myself included, that have absolutely been in awe as to the job they do. They do a wonderful job. My neighbor, as a matter of fact, I sicked him onto these folks at Snake River Auto Body and Paint. He said, hey, Zeb, thanks. Best tip I've ever had. They are good. 734-5790. 734-5790. Snake River Auto Body and Paint, 404 4th Avenue West in Twin Falls. When you thought Jane Fonda had just kind of folded her tent and went to the rocking chair, nope, she's back. Jane Fonda came out, and, she is another one of the NRBs. And for those of you that might be tuning in for the first time, I give that NRB label to the not real brights. She was everybody's favorite pin the tail on the donkey girl from the Vietnam era. Oh, she just absolutely sickens me. Well, she came out yesterday as if I care. As if I am worried about what Jane Fonda thinks. And she came out, and President Trump has said, no, we're going to go ahead and open up the Dakota pipeline. All the environmental studies that were done, cleared, and okayed through the Obama administration, we're going to just go ahead and open up the Dakota pipeline, and we're going to finish the Keystone pipeline, and the devil be damned, because we're going to go ahead and honor our contracts, our agreements, and all the jobs available and everything. We're going to finish them. That's the way it's going to be. And Jane Fonda came out and said, no, I'm going to stop it. Well, Jane, I don't know how to break this to you, being a cobweb-minded crazy. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? A lot of people have called me and said, well, we got to stop this pilot. No, we don't. Everything was done, to the highest degree. I've read the reports. I've had people on my program that have discussed it, that have been a part of it. And in regards to the Keystone and the Dakota pipeline, just 2 of thousands of pipelines, every environmental study, everything, all the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed during the Obama administration. There's no reason not to. And Jane Fonda says, no. Jane. Anyhow, let's go to the weather. 436-2244, the number to call. Our weather brought to you this hour by Riverview Urgent Care, 382 North Overland and Burley, Twin Falls Urgent Care at 2392 Addison Avenue East in Twin, and Jerome Urgent Care, 133 West Avenue A in Jerome. You know, you've been kind of shoveling snow, got a real sore back, or maybe you slipped on the ice like it's not good out there. I'm telling you, be careful. And you got a sprain or a strain, or maybe you got a laceration, you fell off the ladder, cut yourself, whatever. Hey, listen, they're open 7 days a week, and they can help, and they will help you. Minor emergencies, major care. At the Urgent Cares. Right now, here's the weather.
Looks like clouds and some possible more snow showers in the forecast for today and tomorrow. Here's a look at your weather. We do have a slight chance of snow showers for this morning. Hopefully those are going to be tapering off as we get more towards the afternoon hours. Still a little bit on the breezy side, winds out of the west, right around 10 miles an hour. We are expecting a high of 24 tonight, low of 16 tomorrow. We do have a 30% chance of morning snow showers in the forecast, high of 22 with an overnight low of 13. Clouds will be sticking around for Friday, but hopefully no snow showers in the forecast. High of 24 with an overnight low of 8. Mostly cloudy for Saturday and 21, and again, mostly cloudy and 21 for Sunday. That's your weather for Zebeth Duran.
Thanks, Gina. Gina, absolutely the best. I appreciate everything she does. And the weather brought to you by the Riverview Urgent Care in Burley, Twin Falls Urgent Care in Twin, and Jerome Urgent Care in Jerome. Yep, it's true. Minor emergencies, major care. Well, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Zeb. I'll tell you, I want to make a comment about the weather a little bit, but I've always said that rain's a lot easier to shovel, and I don't know about you, but it's definitely, Boise's on the way to having a record amount of snow, and we're having a situation here, you know, we had 11 inches, I think, total here in the last couple days, and it snowed again last night after shoveling for several times. And but I attended the potato school last week, and I ran into a friend, and he has a friend that lives over in the Egypt area. I'm not sure exactly what he does, but anyway, he's in an aerial looking down at the Giza and all the pyramids on the 19th of December, an aerial shot, and the pyramids were covered with snow.
Yeah. Yeah, well, you know, it's all the more...
For over 100 years, and the way Boise, the records are piling up. They've already got over 32, I think, inches in Boise.
Yeah.
And if it continues, they could break the 50 inches that they... I think is the all-time record in 1892. So the global warming thing isn't working very well at all.
I agree.
And, of course, satellite data shows we've actually decreased about 1 full degree Fahrenheit, which is a lot in the last few years.
You know, Adrian...
The pipeline situation, the problem is it's all of that oil right now is going... on rail cars, tankers, and we know we've had some wrecks with that, and but that's Warren Buffett owns Burlington Northern. I actually have a nephew that is an engineer, and that's what they do. They haul coal and oil, and of course it'll be a big drop in Buffett's revenues. And they're charging exorbitant prices because they can.
But Adrian, wait a minute.
They'll bring in some competition.
Let me interrupt you real quick, because I've only got a limited amount of time, and I want to get a quick answer on this. The pipelines today, I mean, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to realize that with all the environmental impact studies, everything about what's going on with these pipelines, and today the new pipelines are so much better than they were on many of the pipelines that were installed 35, 40 years ago. There should be no qualms whatsoever that it's the safest way to transport this stuff. Much safer than on the road, much safer than on the rail, and these nincompoops that are fighting it are absolutely stupid.
Well, they've got an agenda, and the agenda is that if you look at the people that are financing all this, is is to destroy this country and its economy. That's been their goal for a long time. And I'm just hopeful our congressional people and people we need to be calling into our senators and congressmen and demanding, that we stop this nonsense. Well, my little town of Filer, where I live, we're going to spend $6 million to lower arsenic from 10.5 to less than 10. In fact, the last reading was right at 10, and the EPA arbitrarily, just pulled out of that blue, no scientific data to back it up. They lowered it from 50 to 10. And it's called Buell, Castleford, Twin Falls. Most of these communities around here, millions of dollars to put in reduce the arsenic.
Yeah.
It's not made it any safer. In fact, Twin Falls has had several water line breaks over the whole situation. They moved water 8 miles to blend water. Anytime you do that, there's always more chance for contamination. So this is not about safety. This is about being just totally ridiculous.
Yeah. Got to run, Adrian. Got to run. I got to run.
Trump's already put some kind of a order to stop them from going to the press and doing all their stuff by the media. They're just bureaucrats that have no concern other than getting their next paycheck.
I agree. I got to running out of time. Appreciate your points as always, and thank you for your call this morning. Thank you.
You bet.
God bless. Thank you.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
All right, caller number 2, I'll be right with you. I know that Lyden Crane sent me a note this morning, and I thought this was really good. He said, I looked at the window this morning and tried to imagine a sandy beach and palm trees. I think we need to have a call to Al Gore and order another round of global warming. Al Gore, what a joke, but nobody's laughing. Caller, I'm sorry you had to wait so long. Good morning, you're on the air.
That's all right, Zeb. I'm a patient man.
Well, I'm not. Go ahead.
What Trump did with that Keystone and that Dakota pipeline, where he said we're going to continue.
Yeah.
I love the ending of the sentence, the little explanation point. We're going to use American steel.
Yeah, absolutely.
Why couldn't another president before done that?
And it's going to. Can you imagine, and I know you can as a businessman, can you imagine what that little phrase did to the state of Pennsylvania? The steel towns, and quite frankly, the first thought that came to my mind was the pro football team, the Pittsburgh Steelers, and, playing for the heart of their city, etc. Can you imagine what that did to the people that have been absolutely unemployed or they've been looking for other sources of income? It gave them a feeling like, oh, man, this president cares about us.
Exactly. He cares about America. If you can't see that in the first couple of days that he's done, Ray Charles can see that this man loves America. That what he's doing is right for America.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the ones that are hypocritical about it, they're sore losers.
Yeah, there was a guy on television this morning early at about 4:30 this morning, and he was crying the blues. Well, no, I don't think we should do that because, I represent some foreign interest, and we can make that steel cheaper, and we shouldn't have the president saying that he's going to have it made here in America. What kind of idiocy is that? You know something? I believe this. I really do, Doug, that even if the prices are higher here in America, that money that's spent turns over 5 to 6 times in every community. I know this because I knew the monetary influence of what it did to Las Vegas when the National Finals Rodeo moved down there. Millions and millions and millions upon millions of dollars turned over 5-6 times in the economy, and that's what happens when you refurbish the American economy.
Exactly. And in my rebuilding business, I can buy foreign products and I can buy American products, and I buy American products when I can. And sometimes the American products are $40 more than the competitive. So, I got to balance it out, but I do American any chance I get.
Let me ask you something. Have you, and I mean this, and if anybody's offended by this that's in the clothing business, I don't care. I recently went to buy 2 very well-known shirts, well-brand name shirts. I brought them home with the size that they were marked with. And I'm not exaggerating, Doug, you can call my wife. I put them on, and the cuffs barely went past my elbow.
Well, that's the style nowadays.
Not for me, Buckwheat. No, what happens is all of these clothing manufacturers and everything, they've been shipping, and the big names, have been shipping overseas, and evidently these people that are smaller people by stature and by genetics, they think that a sleeve length of 36 is too long, so they're going to make it a 32. I mean, my goodness, I put the shirt on, and it was just below my elbow, Doug.
I know it. Like I've read in some of them, the brand name, generic name of Levi's, your blue jeans, and I've looked and it says made in Mexico with American product.
Yeah. And these...
And that doesn't make sense.
No.
You grow it here. It costs to ship it to Mexico. You build it there, and then you ship it back.
Yeah. I got to run to the news, but don't get me started on shipping things overseas. We could talk all day. God bless you, man. Thanks a lot.
You bet.
All right. Don't forget our major sponsor, and that's, of course, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. All 7 locations, the best of snow, ice, yuck, and muck tires. Oh, boy, I mean, with all the snow, you're going to need the traction, and then, of course, comes the ice, and then the slush. Oh, my goodness. Get in and talk to them about your car, your truck, your SUV tires. Drive a lot safer with traction tires from your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. And, of course, all the tire chains, the batteries. Boy, you got to have a good battery. Front-end alignment, shocks and struts, and very, very good brake service. Please stop in and see Lane and Rupert, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, Mike and Buell, Mike and Jerome, the Twist family in Paul, Daniel on Pole Line in Twin Falls, excuse me, and Randy on Overland in Burley. Your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Got to run to the news. Coming up in about 7 minutes, I'll be back. That was a real bright guy. Anyhow, good morning. Zeb at the Ranch with our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you. And some of our great advertisers like Western Waste Services.
From the canyons of the Snake River and all across southern Idaho, we're always at your disposal. Western Waste Services, we care about our community, our resources, and this free land. Western Waste Services is lending a hand, always at your disposal. Western Waste Services.
Oh, don't forget Western Waste Services with, of course, the Go Minis portable storage units. And you can fill them up, keep them on your property, or you can tell Western Waste to store it on their property at their site. All you gotta do is give them a call and find out more about these portable storage units, the Go Minis. Western Waste Services, always at your disposal. Call them today, 734-6969. That number again, 734-6969. Hey, if you got dogs and kitty cats and horses and cows and sheep or whatever, well, I'm going to tell you, you better call Ark Animal Hospital in Heyburn if you want to make sure your animals stay healthy. Maybe they've got a little problem they need corrected and taken care of. Well, I'll tell you what, Dr. Bill, Dr. Liz, the whole crew serving you. And by the way, February is Animal Dental Month. And boy, bad teeth can really lead to a lot of problems. So check with Ark Animal Hospital today. That's right, 750 21st Street in Heyburn. Number to call, 678-1177. They have warm hearts for cold noses. I don't know if this guy's nose is cold or not, but he's a doggone good friend of mine. Dave Vigo, Indiana, how are you?
Good, Zeb. How you doing?
I feel like skipping through the pasture, clicking my heels, and absolutely shouting for joy because so far I love what this administration is doing.
Yeah, they're doing some good things, Zeb, and he's getting on the program right away. And I just think he needs to keep it straight and in line, and he'll be fine.
You know, when I look at Donald Trump and I hear all the past verbiage and read all the past news stories, oh, the man's nuts. He's going to just get us in a nuclear war. Why, he does everything so impetuous, he caused all kinds of problems. I'm seeing a personality like when he sat down at that table yesterday with all the business leaders of a very direct, very commanding, very listening, very business-like professional. Do you agree or disagree?
Oh yeah, I've met with him. Been in a room with 40 other people, and he can be like that. I just think he kind of gets out of the parameter sometimes when he's on TV, and I think that's the only thing that gets him in trouble.
Well, I agree with that, but you know, it's something else I noticed, and you had talked about this on my program. As a matter of fact, I thought about you right away when I saw this on television, and that's Mike Pence. I'm seeing a very controlled, very educated, very systematic man right there that I think is going to be the leveler, if you will, for this entire administration.
Well, I think so, as long as Trump will listen to him in that, and Mike Pence is he's very controlled. He's even when he speaks, I saw him the week before the inauguration, and he's very controlled and kind of laid back type of speaker in that, and he just he's kind of the total opposite personality of Pence. And as you say, I think that can help as long as Pence lets him help.
You mean Trump?
Or Trump, I'm sorry.
Yeah. But the only thing that I saw Michael Pence can't do, he's not a very good dancer.
Well, I could give you a hard time on that. He used to be a talk show host, so maybe that goes hand in hand.
Have him call me. We'll compare notes. Have my people call his people, etc. What did you think, honestly, of the inauguration itself? Now, be a little elaborate on this, because there's been some nitpicking, and quite frankly, it's really low-class nitpicking. What are your thoughts?
No, I thought the inauguration was fine. I thought it was professional. I thought Trump did a good job, and his staff, Pence, did a good job, and I don't think it was outlandish at all. I think what we're seeing, with these protests and the Women's March and all that kind of stuff, this is the far left in the unions, and I know the unions are behind the Women's March because I've talked to one of the gals that's in my book out in California. She went to one. She says it was just loaded with SEIU bosses and that out there, and they're just doing this to go after Trump to try and bring him down. And they're going to nitpick on things that really aren't a problem. And they're going to tell people, like, women's rights are being attacked, and, you're going to see attacks on racial attacks and all this kind of stuff, because they're going to try and get these people behind him so they can bring him down. Because, there's already talk that some people want to impeach him.
Yeah, I've heard that, and it's total lunacy. Let me ask you this. I listened intently to the inauguration speech, and I must have missed something, my dear friend David, because I thought it was a very poignant, very direct speech about the problems that we have with, honestly, the American carnage of killing in the streets of Chicago that has to be stopped and corrected. And I also listened to the other phrase that has caused him heartburn with the liberal left, and that's America first. I want to live in America that has the attitude that they're going to be number one. But the left is just coming after him with hammer and nails. What are your thoughts?
Well, yeah, again, that goes back to what I just said. This is their way of going after people that they want to intimidate and bring down, just like the SEIU tried against my company. And, they pick out points that weren't points at all and go out and it's basically misinformation and lies. But they do it to get people on their side because they know there's a lot of people that are so naive out there and so easily brainwashed that they go out and do this stuff to get them all riled up and on their side so they can try and achieve their agenda. And Zeb, we're going to continue to see this, and I think it's going to get worse as the next few months go on.
Now, right there is something I haven't wanted to really say too much about because I absolutely agree with you. I think right now, the liberal left in this country, the Democrats, and all the global no borders crowd, they're going to do all they can to be disruptive in the form of violence and anything else. I'm really concerned that this presidency may have to come down with a real iron fist.
Well, they are going to have to, and as I've talked about in blogs in the past, let's just talk about our borders and refugees and all that kind of stuff. The truth is the reason the left wants it is because they use these people to help them win elections. It's like Harry Reid in Nevada back in 2010. The reason that he won, and Trump came out with this yesterday talking about, he lost 3 to 5 million votes because or 3 to 5 million Hispanic people went out and voted, and that's why he lost the popular vote. Well, back in 2010, the reason Harry Reid, he was behind by 4 or 5 points going into the election, and won by 2 or 3 points, is because Hispanic workers by thousands were bussed to polls by Democrats and unions.
Yes.
And,
yes.
And they were told who to vote for. They just went in and voted Democratic ticket. And and that's how Harry Reid won. And I'm sure what we saw in California and Nevada this year, a lot of that happened against Trump.
Let me just say this, and you and I mostly are on the same page all the time, but I'm just going to say this morning early at about 4:30 a.m., I heard some of these so-called political pundits really rail against Trump for opening up an investigation into voter fraud. But wait a minute. Most of these not real bright pundits said to a person, well, what's he doing because he won? What's he trying to do? Just cause all kinds of problems? No, I don't look at it that way at all, Dave Vigo. I look at it to the point where, yes, there is voter fraud, and if he wants to have an investigation, it's going to make it more safer and secure for future elections. Do you agree with me?
Oh, 100%. And the other thing is that people got to realize that this voter fraud with, and he talked about the Hispanic workers or illegals coming in voting. Like I say, he felt that cost, that was an extra 3 to 5 million votes for Hillary. Here's the other problem with this. We have these people coming across our borders, and they're costing jobs in this country. They're lowering wages in this country. We know that drugs are coming across the border and legal guns. And we need to protect our borders, protect our society, and we got to obey the laws of this country. If you obey the laws of this country, this stuff wouldn't be happening.
Absolutely. The president, I've got a picture right here in front of me as it came across our service this morning. He's signing executive orders to begin an order to start building the wall along the southern border against Mexico. He is expected to take action in the next couple of days to temporarily ban immigration from Muslim countries deemed a threat to national security, namely Syria, Iran, Iraq, Libya, Yemen, Sudan, and Somalia, and also to sign another domestic immigration enforcement measure that will include targeting sanctuary cities. All of this I applaud because all I'm going to say is it's about time.
Yeah, and I agree with you, but, the left is going to look at this as that we're segregationists, we're picking out people and attacking them because, we don't want those type of people in this country and all that. That's not the point at all. The point of the law is we are a nation of laws, and we need, if people want to immigrate to this country, fine, but they got to go through the process and be vetted properly, and if they don't meet the requirements, then they can't become part of this country.
Well, it's so simple. And it's so white versus black as far as truth or not truth or right or wrong. I just do not understand how anybody on the left, how anybody can argue the fact that we've got problems with terrorism in the world. It's got to be stopped. We have to investigate who these people are. We have a problem with illegal immigration. We have a problem with the sanctuary cities, i.e. Chicago, getting more of a mess every day, and all the killings, all the shootings. And if Donald Trump and his administration wants to jump in with both feet and try to solve these problems, I say, liberals, get out of the way. The new sheriff is coming through.
Well, I agree with you, but here's the thing. And I've said this many, many times, is that the problem with this is they want these people in this country so they can use them as a voting machine for themselves and help them win elections. And this is what this is all about. And the unions want them in here so that the Democrats win elections, so that they can pass laws to help unions force unionized people. And the unions, and I talked about this a year or so ago, Obama was providing the list of people they knew come across the border to the unions so they can go out and work their way through the businesses they're working for and try and unionize them. And this is all about their agenda. This has nothing to do what's right for America. And I think people in both parties, because I think there's a lot of Democrats that are waking up to the fact that this is not the Democratic Party that their grandpa and dad and great-grandpa knew. This is a totally different program where these people are trying to fundamentally change this country and take over.
You know, what you just said is so true, because I was thinking about that this morning. You know, John F. Kennedy, Robert Kennedy, Adlai Stevenson, all these people of the past Democratic Party, I would imagine that right now if they could see what's going on and speak out against it, they would absolutely trash what the liberals have done to that party.
Oh, I think they would too, and I'm sure that they're rolling in their graves looking at it, because it's sad what's going on in this country, and we have just got a far left group that doesn't, again, I say this over and over again, they don't understand how to operate in our free market society. To them, the only way to achieve their objectives is through lies, misinformation, intimidation, and that type of tactics. And then we're going to continue to see it because these are desperate people.
Yeah, what your point is really well taken there. There's another story I wanted you to comment on this morning because it sent a chill down my back, and I'm serious when I say this. I understand there was a female SS agent, Secret Service agent, that came out and said, quote, she'd take jail time over taking a bullet for Donald Trump. She is an avid Hillary supporter. And when you think about it, the Secret Service so close, like skin, on the president to save and protect him and his family. And when you have somebody coming out and saying that they'd rather take jail time than protecting the president, whoa, David, that part of the government, the Secret Service, are they going to have to screen everybody again? That's pretty serious stuff.
Well, yeah, I saw that article too, and absolutely, they should be doing that anyway. We change presidents and other elected officials, they should be screening people that are involved with them to make sure that there's not a problem. That's part of their duties to this country. And, that's one of the things I've been concerned about is that the Secret Service and others are doing the right things to make sure that Trump is protected.
You know, going over now to the Dakota Pipeline and the Keystone Pipeline. And I just don't understand how liberals and the left and the Democrats, they just don't seem like their elevators going to the top floor. They have complained about this, and Donald Trump said, no, wait a minute. All the environmental studies, everything has been done during the Obama administration to make sure all the I's are dotted and the T's were crossed. Even various environmental groups said, yeah, you know what? It looks like a no-brainer. Everything's been done perfectly. But yet now they're coming out and fighting this and trying to stop it. And Donald Trump had the courage, I think, to say, no, wait a minute. We're going to go ahead and do this. It's been okayed. Get out of the way. We're coming through. What are your thoughts?
No, and it needs to be done. He's right. In fact, I talked about that in one of my blogs a couple of years ago that, Obama was holding that up and he shouldn't. But again, this is a situation where far left people are part of this environmental movement. And want their pockets stuffed by the government, and vice versa. They'll give money back to the Democratic Party to get these people elected to stuff their pockets. And this has nothing to do with the environment. You think about it. A real simple thing. It's a lot cleaner to ship that through pipelines and then it is through trucks and trains going across the country spewing smoke and out all the time.
Absolutely. I wanted to ask you, the meeting that Trump had the other day with the business leaders, the CEOs, and quite frankly, many members of various unions. I just watched that and listened to it, and I was really impressed because when they were interviewed after the meeting, most of the business leaders, they came out of there with some pretty good thoughts about optimism for the future. As a businessman, what were your thoughts?
Yeah, I think that he's going to do good things for the business community, and he's going to help bring back jobs, and that's why a big percentage of the union membership, like 54 or 55%, voted for him, because they're tired of what's going on in this country. And they know it's going to take somebody with business acumen to get us back on track.
Absolutely. We have a quick call from a caller. Go ahead, you're on the air.
Well, a couple of quick things about this pipeline. The Oracle of Omaha, I can't even remember his name right now, but he owns the train that ships the oil down to Louisiana, if I'm not mistaken. And so he's, you'd think a guy like him would, where he's so rich and we've made him one of the richest men on earth, that he would actually care about free market capitalism. And you see, he's just a phony SOB, and you get sick of this type of thing. But another thing about these environmentalists, if you've ever studied the Equal Access to Justice Act and what a disaster it is and how the environmentalists use it to literally drain the money out of our coffers from the government, and then the sue and settle, the way they sue, and then the government settles with them, and literally keeping these environmental groups in business, especially with this Obama administration. I'll hang up. Thanks.
Dave, respond to the caller if you would, please.
Well, he's exactly right. And, one of the big, going to the environmental groups, and I can't remember the name of it, but one of the big ones that out in California that Obama was behind, he gave them millions and millions of dollars. They didn't even stay in business for a year or so, and they were out of business because they couldn't sell what they were, trying to promote out there. And again, to go back to what I said earlier, the environmentalists are in this to get money from the government for, to create their own pockets and their jobs, and then they give it back to the Democratic Party for campaign money too.
David, as I looked at the playoffs, your Indianapolis Colts are at home. My Green Bay Packers are now at home, and we're down to two teams, the Atlanta Falcons and the I don't like New England Patriots. Your thoughts on the Super Bowl?
Well, I was, I watched the Green Bay game, unfortunately, and I was really pretty impressed with the Falcons. They were better than I thought they were, and I think that it could be a very interesting game, and it'd be nice to see a new Super Bowl champion.
I agree with that, but you got to admit to me, too, as being a former athlete, outstanding athlete back there in Indiana, Green Bay was down to playing the water boy. All their people were hurt.
Yeah, and that's tough when you're playing with your backup people and that, and it doesn't mean they're not good people, but they don't have the experience and all that to help get them through, especially games at that level. And it was sad to see all that happen. But again, I was impressed with some of the things Atlanta did, and I'm not a real big Patriots or Deflatriots fan, as we call them here. And so we'd like to see a new Super Bowl winner.
I really enjoy having you on the air. You give a straightforward approach to what's going on in the news. You know all about the labor unions. You know all about the problems and the pitfalls. Dave Bego, you're always welcome on this program. Thank you. Have a wonderful week, and please enjoy the rest of the winter. We're hoping we can stop some of this angel dandruff. As you've heard, we've had probably the worst winter we've ever had here, and at least since the time of 92 and 93. It's really been cumbersome.
Oh, I know the Rocky Mountains out there, the whole West has gotten a lot of snow in that, and but we've had very little out here, and we're actually supposed to be up in the 50s today, but we do have gray skies and a little rain.
My dear friend, take care. God bless, and we'll talk to you next Wednesday. Dave Bego in Indianapolis, Indiana. Thank you so much. The author of The Devil at My Doorstep and The Devil at Our Doorstep. Thank you, Dave.
Thank you, Zeb. You take care now.
All right, buddy. Thanks a lot. A really nice guy. I really appreciate him, Dave Bego. Oh, Ag Express Incorporated. Did you know that they're looking for drivers? And they are offering a tremendous package for you. Full and part-time positions. Retired folks are welcome. They'll work around your schedule 2 or 3 days a week. And you're home every night. They've got new and maintained equipment. And listen to this. You work 6 months, they give you a week's vacation. You work 2 weeks after a full year. Holy cow. I think I'll start driving. Benefits include all kinds of major, dental, vision, and everything. You check it out. 401k plan. You better call today. Call Dale and Paul at 438-8886. Alan in Twin Falls, 731-2495. And Chad in Burley. Hello, Chad. 670-7219. Ag Express, you call them today. And by the by, one of our long-time sponsors on this program, and I just absolutely appreciate what they do and how they are to the rest of the community, Hanson Mortuary. They are just really there. And I mean, they're so helpful, so friendly. Hanson Mortuary with Joel Heward, his family, his staff, always serving you. And there's nothing more devastating than to lose a loved one and you just don't know what to do, what has to be done in such a short period of time. They can help you with all the arrangements, always treating you and your family with the highest ethical standards with unquestioned integrity. Please, write the number down. Keep it handy, 436-5636. I'll repeat that, 436-5636. Hanson Mortuary, 710 6th Street in Rupert. We're going to be having Speaker of the House, Scott Bedke, on the phone in just a moment, and I'm looking forward to our segment on Wednesday's legislative update. That's coming up in just a matter of seconds, so stand by. Don't forget, with all this angel dandruff that's fallen from the heavens, you snowmobilers, I bet you're just smiling like Cheshire cats. Well, over at Let's Ride, they've got all the new snowmobiles. They've got all the accessories. They've got the timber sled systems, the snow bike conversion kits. They've got it all for you, including a super great service department. Holy cow, you better get a hold of Nick and the crew at Let's Ride, 270 Highway 24, between Rupert and the World. They're open Monday through Friday, 9 to 6, Saturdays, 9 to 5. It is where the fun is sold. Let's ride. Well, let's ride right on down through the phone line and head to Boise, and that's where the Speaker of the House is currently during the legislative session. Good morning, Mr. Speaker. Scott Bedke, how are you?
Well, I'm doing good, Zeb. How's everything back home?
Well, good. I was kind of worried about you the other day when I talked to you on the phone because I don't think I have ever seen on a Vista phone a Speaker of the House wearing Tony Lamas on a treadmill.
Well, what happens at home stays at home. And, so I did trade my Tony Lamas in for some tennis shoes, and you and I are not as young as we used to be, and our appetites have not diminished. So if we don't get on the treadmill every now and then, we may have to buy some new pants. So anyway, that's my motivator.
Have you noticed, though, Scott, in the last 5 or 6 years when you say that, how when you go to wash your Wranglers and have them pressed, they will shrink in the closet after about maybe a month or so?
Well, that's what my dad said. He wore 36s for a lot of years, and so he bought some 37s, and they felt so good he bought some 38s, and that's where he stayed for the rest of his life. So anyway, I know exactly. I guess it just comes with the territory.
I guess so. Scott, one of the things I think needs to be said right off the get-go here this morning is maybe a lot of my audience doesn't know what the Speaker of the House does. I mean, what are your duties? What are your daily routines? What do you have to do during the legislative session?
Well, that's a great question. The Speaker of the House is a constitutional, it's a constitutional duty or a constitutional office. I am elected Speaker by the other House members, and this is the 5th year that I am the Speaker of the Idaho House, and that's a great honor to be trusted enough by the other members of the House to be elected as their leader, as their voice. Not only in the public but also in the governor's office and with the Senate. So my job as the Speaker is, I'm a legislator from our area as well. So all of the responsibilities that I had as a legislator, I still have. But in addition to that, I am their spokesman much of the time, and I advocate for their position in the legislative process. For example, this morning started early. I and the other chairman of all the committees had an early morning meeting where we let everyone know kind of what our legislative priorities were, what's coming through the various committees, so that no one is blindsided. And I conduct that meeting. During a week I will speak to 4, 5, 6, even sometimes a couple of times a day, out to the various groups, that come to Boise to have their meetings. So all the trade groups, all the different, the various groups come, and they all have a legislative agenda, and they have a legislative program, and sometimes a banquet, and I'll get invited often to speak and address those folks and answer their questions, and just kind of familiarize them with the legislative process. Here, as soon as we get off the phone here, I'm going to go downstairs, and Governor Otter and I are going to sit down, and we're going to talk about some issues in the oil and gas industry. And a lot of people in our area don't know what they have discovered gas and oil up in western Idaho, up around Weiser, Payette, Washington County, Payette County, and this is something that we've never had as a state, but so we're going through some of the growing pains of having that industry come in, and we're not experts on that subject here in Idaho like we are on many others, and so there's a few growing pains. We're going to talk about that. I conduct the business on the House floor every day. Anyway, so it's an administrative job that I have in addition to my regular duties as a legislator.
Let me ask you this question, and I don't mean to simplify this question because I really don't know the answer to this. How do you, as the Speaker of the House, or the daily activity schedule, how do you decide what things need to be discussed and in what order so that something is not overlooked? That's got to be really time-consuming.
Well, it does, and I have begun. I used to be able to do all of that just kind of in my head, and I don't know whether it's the amount of issues or that my head doesn't process things like it used to. I'd like to think that that my processor works just as well as it ever did. It's just I got too much stuff to process. But I carry a book along with me, a small black book, and I take notes so I don't forget, and I don't forget the details because I've got a lot of people that are depending on me to advocate for them and to take up their issues. And so if I have a casual conversation, what I view as a casual conversation in the hallway, that was a big deal to that legislator, and so I make a note so that I don't overlook that. When they come and ask me how is it going, then I can report. So I take notes, and I make myself notes, and I get up earlier before all this other stuff happens, early in the morning and late at night. I just go over it, just so that it's all in my mind of the things I got to do today, and the bases that I got to touch today, and the things that are left undone, and it's just, and that's such a a hectic 90 days while we're here, is because we have a lot of things to accomplish, and not a lot of time to do it. So I just try to stay organized, and anyway, and that's my system anyway.
Let me ask this next question then, and I think my audience would also like to know this. When there are discussions on the floor, and the discussions go on and on over a certain subject, do you, because of time constraints, to try to get everything in, are you basically the timekeeper and say a yay or a nay as to how long these discussions will go?
That's a good question as well. If we're in my office and we're discussing things in that setting, then of course I do, and we try to keep the agenda moving, and try to keep we don't just beat a dead horse here and whatnot. If we're in a committee setting, then of course that is the chair of that committee is charged or is given the authority by the body to conduct the meetings and make sure that they're done in an expeditious way and with decorum and civility, etc. That's their job. And then on the floor, when we're in a formal setting on the House floor, then there are rules as to length of debate and whatnot. But And of course, there's motions that can be made if everybody is tired of hearing the same old stuff. Then someone can move the previous question. But that is a formal motion. A lot of times we'll be in meetings and somebody in the back will just say, "I call for the question." Well, that is out of order here, and actually it's out of order there. That is a formal motion to move the previous question, and that has the effect of limiting debate. And so in a democratic process, and it requires 2/3 of the people present to agree to it, because to limit debate in a democracy is kind of antithetical to the whole concept of every man having a voice, or every person having a voice. And so it depends on the setting. Each setting has a different set of rules that are very lenient when it comes to making sure that everybody that wants to say something is heard, but there's also the process if someone has already spoken on the subject and wants to speak on the subject for a second time, then we allow anyone that wants to speak for the first time to go ahead of them in the debate. But we don't stifle the debate. Of course, there's limits, and every legislative body has their own rules. By the way, that's when I'm elected speaker. At the very first of the session, or the person that is elected speaker, the very next thing that they do is adopt all of the House rules, and embedded in those rules is the power that the body, or that the rest of the legislators give to the speaker to carry out those rules. So they make these votes knowing full well that that there needs to be order kept, and civility and decorum, and I've empowered you as the speaker to carry those out when it comes to all of the things, and it's a little booklet of all the rules that everyone adopts every year, and then says, and we want you. It's interesting. They say. We may not like what because no one likes to have the rules enforced when it affects them. But in the quiet moment, they'll come to you and say, "We want you to enforce these rules," and because it doesn't function without them. So it's an interesting process, and it's very humbling to be the speaker and to be given that authority by everybody to be the guy that enforces the rules, basically. So anyway, that's kind of how it is. It's very busy. I was here at the Capitol before 7 today. I expect I'll be here until at least 6 o'clock tonight, and then we'll go out. Tonight there's a business meeting, business dinner that I'm going to meet with the president of Idaho State University and his staff. I mean, they're all here in the building today. So anyway, it's an interesting job.
Absolutely. We have a caller with a quick question. Caller, go ahead. You're on the air, please.
Yeah, Scott, there's two things. There was a recent article in the Farm Bureau magazine, and it was by Rick Keller, the president of the Idaho Farm Bureau, and he said Idaho's forests are like a ticking time bomb. We're upwards of 15 million acres of forest land in Idaho, and the mismanagement because of the Forest Service and the feds running it. And, if last year over by Idaho City, we lost 112,000 acres of forest, if not more, and wherever else we had fires. And at one time, the fires would be 6,000 or 7,000 acres, and then they would burn down because we had grazing with sheep and cattle. But because of environmentalism, extreme environmentalism with no logic whatsoever, we've got a disaster on our hands. And when he says a ticking time bomb, it's an understatement. And I'm sick of going camping and seeing what was once a beautiful forest burnt to a crisp, and you got this side of the mountain that's just exposed and destroyed, and you and I will never see it the way it was. We'll be dead. And see, this has got to end. And we've got to have grazing with sheep and cattle, and we've got to get the wrong type of pine trees eliminated out of these forests and cleaned up.
All right.
What are we going to do about this? And do you think that the new Secretary of Ag and the Secretary of Interior and Donald Trump, if he understands this, will it somehow be, there'll be some sort of an answer? I'll hang up.
All right. Scott, respond to that, please.
Well, the caller is as frustrated on this subject as I am. And so with we've been talking about the speakership. I mean, I have an increased measure of voice when it comes to, taking our state issues nationally. And you will find me advocating in the halls of Congress in Washington, D.C., as well as using every avenue that I possibly can within the Trump administration to furthering our issues. They need to look no farther than the state of Idaho to see how it's done properly. On the side of those 15 million acres that he mentioned. And isn't it? And it's a complete travesty that in that Idaho City fire, there's a lot of trees that were killed but not burned, and we are not even allowed to go in and do salvage that lumber. So that's an you know that how I feel on this subject.
Absolutely.
But the federal government needs to look no farther than the state of Idaho, because they're managing 15 million. Actually, it's more than that, frankly. But the state of Idaho manages 2 million acres of range and forest lands, and every year we do that at a profit to the state treasury. In other words, it makes us more money than we spend on it, and that goes into the education system. And our biological results, for those that are worried about the environment, whether it's forest health or rangeland health or watershed health, our land management model yields results as good as in every case and much better than, in most cases, the federal government. It was interesting yesterday, it was on this subject, that I was called by a reporter from the Reno Gazette in Nevada. Earlier, I had gone to Reno. I had sat down with Congressman Amodei down there to discuss this very issue, and the press was in the room. And I made the statement that I just made about Idaho, and he called me up to yesterday. He said, "I'm running a story here and in the USA Today, and I'd like to substantiate your assertions that the biological results in Idaho are better than the federal." And so I met yesterday morning with our state forester and our director of our state lands, and I put the Reno paper together with our state forester, and we have chapter and verse by the federal standards that ours is working better than theirs, and that'll be out there. But the caller is absolutely correct, and I am in hopes. I'm going to take Donald Trump at his word, and when at the start of his inaugural address, he talked about returning the power back to the people, returning the power back to the states. And I look forward to that happening, and you will find me always pushing for that, because I think that the Idaho legislature, that the citizens of Idaho and their elected officials can solve these problems in a way that touches all the bases, in a way that we have never been allowed to do since statehood.
I agree.
And, it's going to be a slow process, but it's high time we started, and I think federalism or honoring the 10th Amendment or whatever you want to call that, but returning the power to the states when it comes to land management or Medicaid, we can do it better, and it's going to have an Idaho feel to it, and it's going to reflect our values, and I look forward to these next 4 years to see, if he just keeps half of his campaign promises, then the state is going to have a much larger role in the day-to-day lives, replacing the federal government in the lives of Idahoans, and I look forward to that.
Scott, along the same vein, let me ask this question. You have to work with both sides of the aisle at the legislative session, but what is the demeanor of the legislators now with Trump being in office actually less than a week? What about the executive orders? What about the way that this man's taken over and I think instilled a feeling of real patriotism as to what's going to happen for America? What do you hear in the aisles of the legislative session?
There's the whole spectrum, Zeb. I mean, I watched tears come to people's eyes as they watched the inaugural address from President Trump, and then I saw others leave the room in disgust. So you have from one end to the other, for the most part. And certainly on the Republican side of the aisle, there's a lot of optimism. A lot of the concerns that we've had through the years seem to be addressed. At least they were brought up, and that's a start. And obviously our friends across the aisle and the Democrats are they still haven't their person lost, and they think that you've heard the national on the news stations. They don't think that President Trump is fit for office, and anyway, so you hear variations on that theme from them, and but there's certainly optimism on my side of the aisle.
Okay, I've only got 3 minutes left, Scott. I'm pressed for time, but of the issues that you're faced in this legislative session, which one is going to take the most professionalism and expertise to try to solve? Well,
there are four. And we can talk about these at other times, though. But the education system is one where we're spending most of your money in the education system, and we are going to emphasize quality education in the early grades. Those kids need to leave those first four grades reading at grade level, and if they do not, then we cannot we can't accept excuses there. At the same time, we have to make the teaching jobs in Idaho more competitive and more attractive, and that means a higher starting salary and higher wages for the veteran teachers. And we're well along our way on that with the career ladder, and so there's going to be a big chunk of our money is going to be spent, and time is going to be spent there. At the same time, we're sitting on a surplus, which means that we have not sent all the money in that you guys sent us, that the taxpayers sent us last year. And for the last 2 years, what we've done with surpluses is we put half of that into the road system and the other half into our savings accounts as a state to replenish the saving accounts that we drew down to zero during the recession. So I believe that we'll do that, and so roads and savings. And at the same time, I think you'll see us going into the tax code to lower the income tax rates, which are the highest in the region. We have more deductions, so high is a relative thing, but we stick out like a sore thumb with our top rate at 7.4, both for businesses and individuals. Keep in mind that you and I, all small business, pays their our income taxes through the personal schedule.
Right.
And so a reduction in the corporate income tax as well as the personal income tax is a reduction in taxes for all businesses in the state, and it puts more money in your pocket and mine to reinvest in your small business, and we're going to do that. So 4 things: education, roads, savings, and tax policy. Those are the 4 drivers this session.
I got to run, and I wished I had more time, but I'm flat out of time. Speaker of the House, dear friend Scott Bedke, God bless you. Thank you so much for being on the program. Excellent conversation. Thank you.
You are welcome, Zeb, and I look forward to this every week. We'll trade off between Fred, Kelly, and I. But anyway, we all 3 look forward to this.
All right, sir. Thank you very much, Scott. I'll be in touch. Thank you again. Scott Bedke, Speaker of the House, on Legislative Update. Got to get a weather forecast in here real fast. Phillips, Oaks, Goodwin, and Crane and Company. Absolutely. Those people are the best. The professionals as being CPAs to help you with your tax return preparation, tax planning, bookkeeping services, retirement planning, etc. Phillips, Oaks, Goodwin, Crane and Company. Get a hold of them today. 2 locations, Burley and Rupert. They are there to serve you. Right now, here's the weather.
Looks like clouds and some possible more snow showers in the forecast for today and tomorrow. Here's a look at your weather. We do have a slight chance of snow showers for this morning. Hopefully those are going to be tapering off as we get more towards the afternoon hours. Still a little bit on the breezy side, winds out of the west, right around 10 miles an hour. We are expecting a high of 24 tonight, low of 16 tomorrow. We do have a 30% chance of morning snow showers in the forecast, high of 22 with an overnight low of 13. Clouds will be sticking around for Friday, but hopefully no snow showers in the forecast. High of 24 with an overnight low of 8. Mostly cloudy for Saturday and 21, and again, mostly cloudy and 21 for Sunday. That's your weather for Zeb at the Ranch.
Brought to you by Phillips, Oaks, Goodwin, Crane, and Company CPAs. And by the way, Leiden Crane, very fluent in Spanish and can offer any of the services in Spanish. Tax return preparation, right now, that's the time of the year. You'd better get a hold of them today. 1710 Overland Avenue in Burley, 878-7000, and 620 5th Street in Rupert, 436-5607. The Professionals. Phillips, Oaks, Goodwin, Crane, and Company, bringing you the weather. And by the way, too, I want to mention our dear friends over in Rupert, and that is Cameron and Siemens Insurance, life insurance, health insurance, retirement planning, employee benefits. Every one of those categories, you need to make sure that you're covered and protected. Get a hold of the Professionals. Cameron, Siemens Insurance, Highway 24 in Rupert. Todd, good old boy, talked to him yesterday. Number to call, 436-4424. That number again, 436-4424. Call for an appointment at Cameron and Siemens Insurance, Highway 24 in Rupert. I don't know if we still have a call waiting or not. Wheels, is that caller still on the line?
No, sir. They hung up.
I appreciate it, Wheels. Thank you very much. Sorry, caller. I just flat ran out of time. And right now we're going to get ready to send it back over to our main studios. But next hour, very interesting, talking about education. Kyle Olson back in Michigan with EAGnews.org. And then at 10:32, attorney Cynthia Garrett. And a very interesting conversation about men. Are there any real men anymore, or has society diminished them to nothing? We're going to have that conversation coming up right now. The CBS News, I'll be back in 7. Oh, my. Good morning. If you like snow, I'm sick of this. I've said that every hour. Enough of the angel dandruff for a while, please. Good morning, Zeb at the Ranch. I'm Zeb Bell. And, of course, our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you, and some of our great advertisers like Western Waste Services, always at your disposal. Call them today. Get on the route service, 734-6969. Don't forget the great big inventory crunch. What's that? Well, they've got so much over there at Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More. So many mattresses, so much flooring and carpeting, so many pieces of furniture, everything you need. And so they're having a great big sale. That's right, clearance sale. You can save up to 75% store-wide. My goodness sakes, you better get in there and check it out today. Great people. Jason and the rest of the folks, always there to serve you. 12 months interest-free financing at Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More. 459 Overland in Burley. One of my favorite guests on this program lives back in Michigan, and he's a Detroit Lions fan. I'm a Green Bay Packer fan. Both of our teams out of the playoffs and not going to the Super Bowl. But he knows education and what's going on in education nationwide better than anybody I've ever talked to. And I'm referring to Kyle Olson with EAGnews.org. Good morning, Kyle. How are you?
Good. You know, bringing up the Lions is kind of hitting below the belt. For the record.
Oh, yeah. Come to think of it, you got whooped early. We at least stayed into the NFC Championship.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. How are you?
I am fantastic, Kyle. It's so good to have you on the program, and I really am interested in hearing your remarks about Education Secretary Betsy DeVos. What are your thoughts? What's she going to do? What does she advocate? How do you feel about her?
Overall, I feel good. I'm a little concerned because there are two sort of thoughts in the school choice movement on the conservative side. The first thought is that the government should get out of it, return power back to parents, to local communities, and let parents decide because parents know best. And that philosophy is enacted by deregulating schools, making it easier for alternative schools to open, for parents to decide, and all of those sorts of things. The other wing of that, of the conservative thought, is we need to provide options and we need to provide alternatives, but the government should be involved. And the government should close schools that aren't working, or the government should make those decisions as opposed to parents. And the reason I bring all of that up is because I think Betsy DeVos is in the former category, but I think because she comes from sort of the Jeb Bush philosophy, that my fear is that there will be an education department that will not have a problem with using government to do what it wants, as opposed to getting government out of the way and letting parents decide.
With that just being said, Kyle, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe this is so-called designated school choice week nationally. What are your thoughts on that versus this new education secretary?
Well, I'm a big believer in school choice and National School Choice Week, which, as you said, is this week. And basically the philosophy there is that parents should be in charge and parents should decide. And I think fundamentally Betsy DeVos believes that. She's been a huge proponent of all sorts of school choice, whether it's voucher programs or education savings accounts or charter schools or homeschooling, whatever it is. She, I think, fundamentally is the more the better, and all options should be available. And so I think that's a very good thing. But my concern, as I said, is that there are some who don't see a problem with the government being involved. And the reason I'm getting at that is because I think there's an opportunity, especially with the way President Trump is talking, there's an opportunity to cut the size of government, to eliminate programs, eliminate bureaucracy and departments, especially federal departments, that aren't necessary. And I think there's a real case to be made that the Federal Department of Education should be severely limited, if not totally eliminated. And I don't know where she falls in that. I know where some of the others that I saw were being talked about, where they fell in that discussion, but I'm not sure yet where Betsy falls in that discussion.
Let me ask you this, Kyle, and I really value your knowledge on these subjects, but if you were to look from California clear to Maine and all the problems that are going on in our public schools, is it fair to say that one size fits all, or how are we going to address the problems in inner city Chicago versus rural Idaho? How does anybody try to solve those problems?
Well, see, and that really gets to it. To me, a lot of this is a philosophical discussion, because here we're talking about school choice, which is a good thing, but fundamentally that is a state and local issue. That should not be a federal issue. The federal government should not be looking for ways to expand school choice. As much as on the one hand, I think that would be a positive thing because that's something I support. On the other hand, philosophically, I don't believe that's what the federal government should be doing. And so to specifically answer your question, it really comes down to what local communities, what families, what parents, what taxpayers want. Because what taxpayers in Idaho want could be something totally different than what people in Chicago or Michigan, where I live, or Florida or anywhere else. And so I would just really caution the Federal Department of Education in its effort to embrace and support school choice to be very careful that it's not creating these sorts of one-size-fits-all rules that really go against the heart of school choice. Because to me, what school choice means is that the parent knows best for their child, and maybe it's a homeschooling situation, maybe it's a traditional public school, maybe it's a charter school, maybe it's learning online. There's a variety of things. And one size does not fit all, and the federal government shouldn't be involved in that business.
There is another problem with education today that I know you're very, very articulate on. We've talked about it in the past, and I'm not even quite sure how to phrase the question. But with the Title IX provided to the schools for the enhancement of women in sports, etc., and now with the sick, perverted transgender issues of those transgenders want to invade Title IX and take over a lot of the girls' sports, what kind of an answer to a very sick problem can this country have?
Well, I think it's that the bathroom issue in particular is making its way through the courts, and it's looking like the courts, at least initially, and I believe there was a case in Virginia where a boy wanted to use a girl's bathroom, and I believe that case is going to the Supreme Court, if I remember correctly.
Right.
And so these cases are making their way through, but really it comes down to local communities figuring out what is best for their entire school population and how to handle that. Because, again, the reason all of this began is because there were activists within the Federal Department of Education and the Federal Department of Justice that issued these guidelines to school districts and basically said, here is now how we are interpreting Title IX, and in order for you to be in compliance and continue to receive your money, you've got to let people who identify as whatever gender they want into the bathroom they choose. What remains to be seen is how is a President Trump and a Trump Education Department and Trump Department of Justice going to handle this. Are they going to rescind those orders? Are they going to take the side of school districts as this makes its way through the federal courts? that remains to be seen.
But you, I think, would agree with me that the more that they allow, and I'll underline that word, the transgender issue to become involved in Title IX, it could spell doomsday for ladies and women's sports in general with the inclusion of the transgenders. Actually, by that inclusion, it's destroying the concept of Title IX.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I think there's no question about that. In fact, we've seen cases this year, actually it was, well, technically 2016, where there were school athletes, there were boys who identified as girls who were competing as girls, who were winning, championships and winning races and track meets and those kinds of things because, science shows that males are physically different than girls, than women, than females. So, those things will continue to happen. But again, it comes down to how the school reacts. Does the school say, no, you are a boy, your birth certificate says you're a boy, and that's how you're going to compete? Or are they going to allow this sort of progressive ideology where anything goes, you can be whatever you want to be? Is that going to take control? So really, it comes down to local school districts making these decisions, and then when parents don't like the decision that's made, they need to do something about it, and that's what it comes down to.
You mentioned the two words, the progressive ideology, and I think you'll agree with me on this also, that those two words have spelled doomsday for a lot of the family and moral values in this country, and also for our public school system. Wouldn't you agree?
Absolutely, and that mindset has really taken hold, and it's this idea that America is not an exceptional country, that free markets and capitalism have been the cause of so much devastation around the world and exploitation of the world. It's that whole mind, and so you have economic philosophy, you have cultural philosophy, the role of the family, the role of the parent, and those kinds of things. And that is what is playing out in schools across the country today. And so whether it's, who should be in charge in making these decisions, all of those sorts of things are what is at play. And as I said, what needs to happen is parents need to be engaged in the whole process. And when bureaucrats are making decisions that parents don't like, they need to stand up against them and fight back.
Absolutely. When I called Kyle the other day to ask him to come on my program, I was unaware that he and his wife were at the inauguration for Donald Trump. And I talked to him about that 10-year-old boy starting fires in the D.C. streets and then saying some obscene language against our president. Well, then I found out you were even closer to some of the good, the bad, and the ugly of that inauguration. I'd like you to share that with my audience here this morning.
Sure. So we went out with a couple friends from Michigan to see the inauguration because I went 16 years ago when George W. Bush was first inaugurated, and it's a lot of fun and it's a great atmosphere. There's a lot of happy people, despite what you saw on TV, and so we went out because we wanted to see it for ourselves, and so we did that. And we ended up we had some seats for the parade at the Treasury building, and so we walked from the Capitol to the Treasury building, which is right next to the White House. And so we walked through a lot of the crowds and the angry people and the nasty signs and everything. And then we had lunch, and then shortly after we left lunch, that was when a lot of the rioting and the smashing windows and burning that limousine and all of that took place. And so we were right down there. And in fact, they broke out the windows of the restaurant where we had lunch. And but it was a lot of fun, and I'm glad we went, and we were able to be a part of it. But speaking specifically about that child, that's really, that's, I think that ultimately what we're talking about here and what is being passed on to kids. And, you just, at least as a parent, I have 3 kids, and I think to myself, if my child ever talked like that privately, there would be a problem. But to stand in front of a TV camera or to stand in front of a camera, any kind of camera, and talk like that, it's shocking. And then the Women's March, there were pictures that came out of kids holding just, awful signs and
right.
just, creating just very poor impressions on these kids. But that's the cultural battle that's playing out today.
When you say that, and again, this is a hard question to phrase, but I think you'll follow my drift, it scares me. As a 69-year-old man that has been born right after World War II and then have been part of the Vietnam era, etc., it scares me to think the cancer of progressivism and that ideology of anything goes, look out, we're coming through, we're going to denigrate family values, etc. It scares me to think that kind of cancer is growing in this country.
I think it is growing, but the question is, how is it dealt with? So with all of the arrests that took place in D.C., I think it was over 200, I can't remember the exact number, how are those people going to be dealt with? And it looks like many of them are being treated severely, or at least how they should be treated, potentially getting 10-year prison sentences. And I think that's the sort of response that needs to be had. And we as a society and prosecutors and law enforcement need to say this. Everyone supports protesting and exercising First Amendment rights, but when you're out attacking people, when you're destroying property, when you're crossing the line, when you're violating other people's rights, that's when you need to be held accountable. And in my mind, the Obama administration, time and time again, looked the other way, enabled that sort of behavior, tolerated it, whether it was in Ferguson or Charlotte or elsewhere around the country. And I think it's incumbent upon the Trump administration, whether the anarchism or anarchy is targeted towards them or not, they need to hold those people accountable and show that we as a society are not going to tolerate that, and no one should try it because you will suffer the same fate.
When you and your wife and your friends were at the inaugural ceremonies and walking the streets of D.C. and literally elbow to elbow at times with some of the protesters, what were your thoughts about the security of the city, the security that was there for the president's walk and inauguration? Did you see any laxity in security, or what were your thoughts on how well they had covered the city?
I had never seen security like that before. When we walked through the city. There was a huge perimeter around the area. I mean, probably I didn't see how big it was, but it was a multi-mile perimeter, and checkpoints and searches and all of those sorts of things. So I felt like the city was very much locked down. When we were at the Treasury Building, there were some stands right outside the Treasury Building, right on Pennsylvania Avenue, and we were sitting in the second row, and the motorcade pulled up, and the president got out, and, I mean, there were just, I didn't count them, but there were many, many, police officers, Secret Service, National Guard. There was just, people everywhere protecting him, and I had never seen anything like that. So, on the one hand, I felt very, it was a volatile situation because, anyone could potentially act out and do something. On the other hand, there was so many police officers and National Guard and Secret Service that if something did happen, someone did lash out, they could clamp down on it pretty quickly.
When you think back to what happened with George Bush and now to Donald Trump, do you have fears and trepidations about, oh my goodness, this country has really slumped in our human kindness and our ability to be gentle towards one another? I mean, really, did you draw a lot of negatives away from what happened in Washington, D.C.?
I think our society, generally speaking, has grown more crude, and we see that through. And I don't know if that's because of social media and the ability of people who never really had a microphone before to suddenly have a platform where they can, just spew anger and get a lot of attention. I don't know if it's because President Obama gave space for people to be angry and lash out through destroying property and all of those kinds of things. But I don't know. I mean, we were standing on the Capitol lawn with, I guess there were about 250,000 people on the lawn itself. And when Hillary would come on the screen, I mean, people would boo. People were heckling Chuck Schumer. And so, I don't know if that is. I understand that there's frustration, and but I don't remember that sort of thing or the alternatives where you see people on social media are picking at Barron Trump and saying he's going to be the first homeschool shooter. I mean, just all of these, just nasty things. Just people saying nasty things, and so obviously I have no statistical information or empirical evidence to show that there has been a decline in sort of decorum. But I think that certainly it bears itself out anecdotally.
I think you would agree with me, a short answer on this. I'm almost out of time, but a lot of this trails right back to the schoolhouse, right back to the education system, because we've lost a sense of respect. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, a sense of right and wrong, a sense of respect for elders. Yes, I think that's a lot of it comes down to that, but a lot of it comes down to parents passing off their responsibility to others, whether it's the school, whether it's the media, TV or movies, whatever it is. I think it's a combination of things.
I really appreciate your taking the time to come on my program again. I have the utmost respect for this man, Kyle Olson, EAGnews.org. Please come back soon. God bless. Thank you again.
Thank you.
All righty, sir. Thank you. Very, very interesting. And he was there, right there, where they burned that limo and where they smashed the windows in the restaurant and everything. It's disgusting what the left is doing to this country. I want to remind you about a great plumber. I mean, this guy knows his stuff. Harris Plumbing NG. Nathan Harris. Wow. I mean, we've used him on a couple of occasions right here at our house, and I mean to tell you, this man is good. One call. That's all. He is the man for all your plumbing service needs. Harris Plumbing NG. And all you have to do is call this number, 431-8633. I will repeat it, 431-8633. We have had excellent experience with this man. He knows what he's doing, gets the job done, bingo, bango, and down the road he goes. He is absolutely excellent. Harris Plumbing NG, 431-8633. Also want to remind you real quick about Ag Express Incorporated. They're looking for drivers. Absolutely full and part-time positions. Retired folks are welcome. Hey. And they'll work around your schedule 2 or 3 days a week. You're home every night. That's a real plus. And new and maintained equipment. Listen to this. 1 week vacation after 6 months. 2 weeks vacation after a year. Can't beat that with a stick. You better get a hold of them. Ag Express. Call Dale and Paul at 438-8886. Alan in Twin Falls, 731-2495, and Chad over in Burley, 670-7219, Ag Express. You call them today. Right now, we're going to send it back over to our main studio. I'll be back in 3 minutes.
And now, back to Zeb at the Ranch on AM 1230 KVAR. To reach Zeb, call 436-2244 or toll free 1-866-927-4587. And now, here is Zeb Bell.
Hi, thank you, sir, and welcome back to our last half hour. I have never had this lady on our program before, but I'm certainly looking forward to her visit. What's the matter, Wheels?
I was just going to ask if maybe you had a backup number for her. The main number that you had given me It just goes straight to her voicemail.
Oh, I do not have a backup number other than... Deanne, if you're out in the other room, please, if you could get this to Wheels, would you do me a favor and please keep trying that number, and we'll see what happens, okay?
Yes, sir.
All right. Well, thank you very much. Well, that's so much fun on live radio. And we'll welcome your phone calls. Evidently, my guest is not by the phone as anticipated. It's funny, too, because I had another lady call and verify yesterday that my guest would be waiting for our call. I want to remind you the Relay for Life kickoff is tomorrow, January 26th, from 6 to 8 p.m. at the Burley Methodist Church at 450 East 27th Street. That is tomorrow for the Relay for Life kickoff, and it'll be from 6 to 8 p.m. on tomorrow at the Burley Methodist Church. Don't forget that. Okay, there you go. You heard it. We have an opening. We'd love to talk to you, so give us a call at 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. And Deanne, maybe if you could come in here, we can find out what happened to our guest this hour. Wheels, what have you got?
I was just going to let you know that I have her on the phone for you.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you, Wheels. And fortunately, we did get a hold of her, and she's ready to go. The attorney for the co-president of Families Advocating for Campus Equality, Cynthia Garrett. Good morning to you. How are you?
I'm great. Good morning to you.
Cynthia, where are you calling from? What area code is 619?
The area code is from San Diego, but right now I'm in Arizona.
Well, God bless you, and I hope you're enjoying warmer temperatures than we are and sunny conditions, because it's snow up here in southern Idaho.
I thought that's why you live there.
No. Thank you. I've had enough. Give us a little background of what Families Advocating for Campus Equality is.
Well, it's an organization that was founded a couple years ago by parents of students who had been wrongfully accused or found responsible for sexual misconduct on campuses. What these parents discovered was that the Department of Education's Office for Civil Rights had issued these mandates, and actually they'd done so illegally, which demanded that colleges across the country handle these allegations in a certain way, basically lowering the standard of proof to what I think of as a hunch, more likely than not. No hearings are required, no cross-examinations, and they allow accusers to appeal not guilty verdicts.
Now, are we talking, and again, pardon my vagueness on this, but I don't think I've had this subject talked about on my program for a long time. Are we talking about the false accusatory tone of someone like what happened to the Duke lacrosse team a couple of years ago?
Exactly. On campus, it's a different ballgame. You don't have nearly the same rights you have in a criminal court. And the rationale is, it's just educational. But what's happening is these young men are so traumatized they can't go back to school. They can't get into another school. We've had a lot of suicidal thoughts and kids hospitalized because they are just blown away.
What kind of, and pardon my naivete on this subject, but Cynthia, what kind of charges, what kind of allegations, what kind of people are throwing these charges at male students, and why?
Well, I think that it's partly a culture issue. On campuses, the radical feminist contingent, and I just want to say here that I was a feminist, but this isn't my feminism, has convinced students that if they regret a sexual encounter, then it becomes a sexual assault. Or if they didn't clearly, the other person didn't clearly ask, can I move on to your whatever, that's a sexual assault. If a woman is intoxicated, that's a sexual assault. Even if the man's intoxicated, and in fact, we have one case where the investigator said they were equally intoxicated, and yet only the man was expelled. And this woman had sent him texts saying, bring a condom, and then to her friend, I'm going to have sex now. And yet the school still expelled only the man.
So basically, in very layman's terminology, I would say this has got to be a real throwing of a bucket of cold water on the dating scene in college if men think they're going to end up possibly not only being expelled from school, but going to jail.
I'll tell you what happens. This is interesting. These young men have no idea. And even if you tell them young men, their attitude is, well, that'll never happen to me because I'm a nice guy and I've got a girlfriend and I'm going to treat her well. Guess what? That doesn't always work. If you break up with the girl, you start dating somebody else, all of a sudden something you did back when, a year, sometimes 2 years ago, comes up. And all of a sudden you're up on a claim of sexual assault. So, yeah, I wish that were the case. I wish they'd just stop dating. But these are the kids that we've dealt with, and we have hundreds of kids that have contacted us in the last 2 years. They are nice kids. They had girlfriends. They thought they were doing the right thing. I mean, the stories I could tell you are ridiculous.
When you say this, Cynthia, it sends a cold chill down my back because maybe I'm getting off the rails here a little bit. Tell me if I am. But I honestly have said on this program for the last couple of years, there is an anti-men, anti-male advertising going on television and radio through the different sitcoms, if you want to call them that. It seems like there's a great program out there for the minimization of men in our society. Am I wrong?
I don't think you're wrong, and I think, again, it goes back to the culture of the radical feminist contingent. I mean, some of these women believe that, pretty much no sex is voluntary on the part of a woman, and that men use sex to subjugate women. I mean, that's their whole intent. And America is a patriarchy, and I think, oh, my God, really, move to another country and see what a patriarchy really is.
Well, you have talked about, just a moment ago, you said some of the stories you would not believe that have happened to some of these kids. So here's a guy on an athletic scholarship. Let's just assume a story here. And he goes to school and he's dating one of the cheerleaders, etc. They break up and this cheerleader says, well, so-and-so did this, that, and the other. He could lose his scholarship. He could lose his possible career in the pros. He could possibly go to jail. I mean, boy, it seems like the cards are stacked against the guys.
Well, I have two daughters, so I just want to make that clear, one's still in graduate school, but, I never thought I would feel this way. But, have you ever heard of Patrick Witt? He was a football player at Yale, and they believed he had the chance to play in the NFL. And some girl, the day he was announced as a Rhodes Scholar, made a complaint at Yale. He was never found responsible. It was just an investigation, and yet he lost his Rhodes Scholarship. His reputation was trashed and still is. He lost a full-time job offer, and he lost the opportunity to achieve his childhood dream of playing in the NFL. I mean, yeah, you're right.
So what you're telling me is that now, today, on a lot of the colleges and campuses of our United States, men are guilty until proven innocent instead of vice versa.
Exactly. They don't require any evidence. I mean, all it takes is an allegation. And, in fact, one court in Tennessee said, you're making this young man prove his innocence, and that's wrong. So some courts have stepped in.
Now, what about the case of the Duke lacrosse team? I mean, the way the media portrayed that story in its initial stages, these were some of the worst guys that were taking advantage of a situation, and it was damn the boys' lacrosse team, damn each of the individuals, and then it came out that they were totally innocent. What about their lives? What about their scholarships? What about the money it cost to defend themselves? What about all this?
What's really tragic about that is that the students that are affected the most are the underserved, those on scholarships, because they can't hire an attorney to help them. These kids are out on their butts. with loans to pay for college, no diploma to show. Some of them were shortly before graduation were expelled. It's really sad. I can't begin to tell you how sad it is. I mean, we have a support group at Faith among the families that is a lifesaver because, these kids literally are suicidal.
Is there a problem to this, what you seem to intimate is an epidemic across our universities? How do we solve this problem, or is there not a light at the end of the tunnel?
Are you talking about an epidemic of assault?
No, an epidemic of making the men the bad guys on everything. This isn't the first time I've heard about men being denigrated and they're always at fault, etc. I mean, is this epidemic to the point? How do we solve the problem?
Well, I think we're going to have to, the new administration is offering hope, in my opinion. This shouldn't be a Republican, Democrat, liberal, conservative issue. It should be a right and wrong issue. But
that's right.
Unfortunately, it tends, although not completely, to fall along party lines. We are very optimistic that some of this overreaching by the Department of Education is going to be reined in, because they issued much of this guidance without any compliance with regulations that say they have to give notice and comment. They just completely did it on their own. They decided this is a great policy and we're going to enact it, and it's too bad.
Yeah. Cynthia, we have a caller calling in. I'm going to ask you, Cynthia, before we go much further, are you on a speakerphone or are you talking on a cell phone?
Oh, sorry. I'm on a cell phone, but also a speakerphone.
Turn the speakerphone aspect of it off because you're echoing too much. So if you do that, caller, go ahead with your question, please.
Yes, I'd ask your guest there, is there a chance at all that these kids can, and not just kids, but the falsely accused, if there's any way they can seek retribution for, like, paying for college and schools and the financial bill, the financial burden, their life's been ruined, they can't get a job because somebody decided that they would lie and say that they got raped by this individual or sexually assaulted.
Yeah, is there
any way at all that they can get reprisal for it? I think that's very unfair if not.
That's a very, very good question. Cynthia, the caller asked a question I was just going to get to in a few moments. What about the accusations and the falsehoods? Can these people, these individuals, these men, can they turn around and go after their accuser and make them financially responsible?
They can. Of course, you can always sue for false accusations and also a lot of men are suing for Title IX violations. They're turning the Title IX issue around and saying, well, you're discriminating against men. Now, up until recently, the courts have been very reluctant to allow these lawsuits to go forward. But in the last year, I'd say there's been several, maybe 15 courts that have shown some bravery and have actually allowed the lawsuits to go forward. But it's an uphill battle. It's very expensive, and that's why I come back to how unfair it is, because these poor scholarship students, and a lot of them are minorities. You'd think, the liberal side would be worried about that, but apparently they don't. They have no way of doing that. I mean, it's horrible. We have some attorneys that will take some time to pro bono, to provide advice, and once in a while they're able to take on a whole case, but they're overwhelmed as it is. It's been very, very difficult to get advice.
I can't imagine, honestly, I can't, what some of these young men are going through, going back again, and hope not too repetitious about the Duke lacrosse team. I mean, their families must have had a real kind of a sideways glance at these young men. Oh boy, what did they do? Their friends, their church members, the rest of the college students, etc. I can see where you can't rebuild some of those personal relationships because they've lost trust in these people all over false accusations. Somebody's got to be responsible. Somebody's got to pay for this in any way, shape, or form. This is devastating, and I never really knew the problem was as big as you say it is.
It's really awful. I mean, even just the accusation, and look at, Nate Parker, he's still paying for it, and he was found not responsible. And don't forget the UVA case. I'm assuming you're familiar with that.
Yes.
And the whole Jackie thing, where she alleged that she'd been gang raped by I don't know how many men. It kept changing and thrown on a glass table and was in glass shards while they raped her one after another. And the whole UVA, the school went crazy and banned the fraternity or made them, I don't know what they did to them, but they suspended them, I think. And then it was all over the news and Rolling Stone, and it turns out it was all made up.
Yeah. Is this problem that you're helping these young men, and thank God for people like you, but is this problem a problem that is based upon a core push from a certain group or maybe some organization that's funding these problems to go get males in our society? I know that's kind of an outreach question, but go ahead. Can you answer that?
Well, I think that what's happening is again, like I said before, it's this agenda by the radical feminist contingent, which has infiltrated the schools. I mean, where do you think that gender studies majors go back to work? They go back to the school, right?
Yeah.
And then they start their gender studies departments, and and also you have to realize that colleges, the professors, conservative professors are in a huge minority. I mean, it's like, sometimes there's out of hundreds of professors, there's maybe 5 that are conservative.
Cynthia, I've had a circumstance happen a couple of years ago, and I'm down to the last 2 minutes in this segment, so give me a short answer on this. But it seems like there are a lot of women in our society that absolutely hate it when you say, yes, ma'am, or hate you if you open a door for them and stand aside. And I had that circumstance happen a couple of years ago when I opened a door for a lady, and she said, hey, I can open the door by myself. I don't need your help. Is this what the feminist movement wants? Is a complete push away of all the males in our society?
I believe, I guess so. I mean, not all of us, obviously, because I think I'm a feminist. I don't know. I don't know anymore. But yeah, it seems like they just don't want to acknowledge that there are differences between the sexes. And honestly, a lot of studies, neurologically and otherwise, have shown that there just are differences. Women are, even as babies and as infants, they're more empathetic. And even men are less empathetic as infants. So, I think I don't know what the answer is, but I think, yes, you're right.
But isn't it...
The authors of the Duke Lacrosse book have just published another book that contains a lot of the stories from these families at Face called the Campus Rape Frenzy. And I think you might want to check into that, too.
Absolutely.
Very informative.
Isn't it a shame, though, quickly, Cynthia, that yes, ma'am, no, sir, yes, etc., and gentlemen being gentlemen and ladies being ladies, isn't it a shame that that's under attack?
Well, I think it is, because I like being treated like a woman. I mean, this whole bit about, women can't do this and that, I became a very, I was an attorney at a great law firm. I was doing exactly what the men were doing. I was getting paid exactly the same thing, but I also like being treated like a woman.
Yes.
I like the kindness, that men show when they open a door for you.
Absolutely. I'm very blessed to have this lady on my program, and I'm going to ask her to come back in the future. Attorney Cynthia Garrett, co-president of Families Advocating for Campus Equality. Thank you so much for being on the program this morning, and please come back.
Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. Thank you. It just is indicative of what's going on in our society. The fabric of politeness, of gentlemanly and ladylike actions is under assault, and I just sit there and I wonder, why? Why? Time for the weather. Actually, it's past time for the weather. Old Wheels is chomping on the bit over there. The weather brought to you this hour by Scarro's Meats. Don Scarrow and the rest of the crew at 331 North Road, Jerome. Number to call, 324-7657. They are changing the way we eat, one delicious bite at a time. Oh, my goodness. All their meats are delicious over there, like that oven-ready marinated prime rib. Oh, does that sound great? We'll find out more about them in just a moment. Here's the weather.
Looks like clouds and some possible more snow showers in the forecast for today and tomorrow. Here's a look at your weather. We do have a slight chance of snow showers for this morning. Hopefully those are going to be tapering off as we get more towards the afternoon hours. Still a little bit on the breezy side, winds out of the west, right around 10 miles an hour. We are expecting a high of 24 tonight, low of 16 tomorrow. We do have a 30% chance of morning snow showers in the forecast, high of 22 with an overnight low of 13. Clouds will be sticking around for Friday, but hopefully no snow showers in the forecast. High of 24 with an overnight low of 8. Mostly cloudy for Saturday and 21, and again, mostly cloudy and 21 for Sunday. That's your weather for Zeb at the Ranch.
I appreciate it, Gina. Absolutely a great job. Thank you. Brought to you by Scarro's Meats. Hello, Don Scarrow and the rest of the crew at 331 North Road, Jerome. They are changing the way we eat, one delicious bite at a time. Call them at 324-7657. Hey, by the way, too, we thank our major sponsor, and boy, you better get to know one of them, one of the 7. If you need tires, traction tires for all the snow, the ice, the muck, the yuck, I'm telling you what, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, the best with all the tires you need to get through all this stuff. And, of course, all the tire chains. They've got all the batteries to make sure you're going to start your four-wheel wonder. They've got the very best of shocks and struts and front-end alignments, and I really want to emphasize their brake service. Absolutely the best. And the people are so people-oriented and service-oriented. Yes, sir. Lane and Rupert, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, Mike and Buell, Mike and Jerome, the Twist family in Paul, Daniel on Poline in Twin Falls, and Randy on Overland in Burley. The best. Your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Our major sponsor. Holy cow, we got a big day tomorrow. Woo, big day. Big day. Chamber report, Rita Ramsey. We've got a guest on the air, and I can't find the guest on the air for tomorrow, but I will find it, I promise. At 10:30, we've got all kinds of things. Cache County School Days, so don't miss a minute of it. Tomorrow we'll ride the horse starting at 8:06 and go to 11. And that's, of course, right here on Zeb at the Ranch, K-Bar, 12:30 a.m., and then streaming live all over the universe on ZebBell.com. Thank you for all your cards and your comments and your letters, your emails, your calls. We appreciate it. And always remember, the way things were are the way things ought to be. Boy, that's proven true every day. Have a great day. I'll see you tomorrow morning at 8:06.